Hi everybody, this is Paris from Rapid Visual. I just wanted to give you a quick update on 3 things that we're working on. So here's a quick little update from what we're developing right now. First, talk about a new feature called Import from an Idea. And basically, if you go into the homepage of the app, you'll see from an idea, you can create your business model. You can either generate from an idea, and basically we used to do that with more advanced prompting through ChatGPT. Now that's all gone and it's embedded into the system. So you can simply type your idea and you can see an example, a self-serve lemonade stand, blah, blah, blah. And that's already something that I created. And then you can generate the business model by clicking on that. You'll wait a couple of minutes, maybe less, and then you'll get a business model to edit. If you don't have an idea, you can come up with one using the agents, but I'll leave that to another video. With that, let's go back to the second thing I want to show you today, which is a feature a few of you have been asking and we've now built in, which is connecting existing customer profiles. What does that look like? This is the business model of a lemonade stand business. And I have tech-savvy millennials and I have local event enthusiasts. But if I were to look through my customer segments, I have this yoga and fitness enthusiast that may be interesting to this particular business model as well. Or maybe I created it and now I want to connect the same customer profile, but to a different business model, maybe a different iteration of it. We don't want to be recreating these because maybe you spend time to refine it. So what I want to do is add and say yoga enthusiasts. So this is now creating the sticky. And once the sticky is made and I click on the sticky and I go to the circle to create the customer segment, you'll see a new option pop up, which is either to create a new customer segment or to connect an existing. I click on connect existing, yoga and fitness enthusiasts, and now this is already pre-configured. So when I click back on it again and I go to my customer profile, here it is. While on this page, the last update is a very anticipated and nearing completion interview module. We're now on version 2 and I just want to show you the prototype. This is not live yet, but just to give you a glimpse of what's coming. So what you're looking at here is a bit of a different UI where we have now highlighted the top 3 jobs, pains, and gains with a blue outline. And let's say we've done all that. We've created our customer value scenes. Everything is ready. We have the value scene of how to test this particular idea. The next thing I want to do is now go into the interview module. Up above, there is 2 interviews because we're still working on the alpha and beta version. This is the new one. It's going to be a bit clunky, but we're still testing. And I'd love to hear your feedback on this because there's still a lot of opportunity to make some changes. So the first thing I want to do is create a new interview cohort. And I'll call this Yoga Folks. And I'll just create that interview cohort. And once I'm in, this is again all work in progress, it says add interviews to this cohort to capture what customers say. Each interview holds details about one person and their perspective, and as you collect more, the AI will help you cluster insights across all the interviews and spot patterns that matter. And that's the point of this module, is that you run your interviews within Rapid Visual, and then the AI is working with you in parallel to give you insights dynamically. Every time you finish an interview, what's going on? Do we detect a pattern? Is there something that is interesting? What's the aggregate profile of the people you've interviewed? And so simplifying that process of synthesizing the data. To get ready to start interviews, there's a few things that need to happen. So we're creating this checklist that you'll be able to actually click into and do those jobs. One is set up survey questions. A lot of times people want to ask maybe 3, 4, 5 questions that are maybe quantitative, closed questions, maybe even open-ended questions at the beginning of an interview, given the chance to talk to a particular customer segment, especially in B2B. And so we want to give the ability to also capture that data. And so it's a very lightweight survey module, but the focus of doing the interview in this conversation-based learning approach is not to do a survey. Then again, we want to be able to record something. So you'll be able to create a survey within Rapid Visual. The second part is clustering jobs, pains, and gains. And what that means is when you're doing an interview using conversation-based learning, you go through the jobs, the pains, and the gains, and you're asking the question, is this you? And that's what the interview module is made to do, is to reveal the job, and then you have the conversation with the trigger question never changing. Is this you? And then they'll say yes, and they'll say no, and they'll say yes, but, and you'll edit. And everything you're doing is being captured in events So the AI knows the changes you're making, and that's how it will be able to synthesize all the data. And then eventually you ask them to rank and so on and so forth. So say, for example, we have 3 jobs that are related to financial matters, another 2 jobs that are related to health. So whatever that cluster might be, there's usually 3, 4, 5 clusters tops that represent that conversation that's happening across those jobs, sometimes across those pains and gains as well. So we're creating now this clustering capability where in the backstage, you'll be able to create your clusters. In fact, we're building it so that the AI can suggest the clusters for you, and then you can edit. So you could have, for example, these 3 jobs and this pain related to one particular thing, which might have to do with budgeting. And so you go through this part of the interview as a cluster, not separately as jobs, pains, gains. And when you finish this cluster, you ask that golden question is, in the context of what we just discussed, what am I missing? And they may add other jobs that relate to budgeting. And you go, thank you, move on to cluster B, which may be, for example, operations. So usually a cluster will have a 1 or 2 word description that kind of encapsulates what the conversation is going to be over the next 1 or 2 minutes about these jobs, pains, and sometimes gains. And so we're building it in such a way where you will be able to create these clusters. The third thing will be to select customer value scenes. And so these are the value scenes that you will bring in to this interview. Let's say you design 10 customer value scenes. Which are the ones that you're going to actually be exploring in this next interview or this interview cohort? And so you choose the ones, and over the course of interviewing, you might say, this one we're not going to check anymore. So you can unselect it and then continue with the rest. Because once you're in an interview, the system basically, you just click next and it takes you to the next thing you need to do. As automated or semi-automated as possible, so you don't have to think and you just have to listen and conduct the interview. This next one is one that Christian Doll and I are writing in our How to Know Which Ideas to Pursue book, which hopefully will be released at the end of this year, where we basically talk about conversation-based learning. And it's a concept that we call listen fors. Listen fors are the things that we're intentionally trying to listen for in case they come up in an interview situation. To give you an example, if somebody, you asked them about their car, there's a job about their car, and the first thing they said was the tires. And then the second interview, the first thing they said was the tires. There must be something there. Why is the first thing that coming up in their mind their tires and not anything else? So it's these interesting things that we should be listening for. And as we learn about these things, we can document them and add these listen fors so that also the AI is listening for them. How many people said tires when prompted with this job? That might be an interesting insight. So there's going to be a lot more explanation and content around this, but it's something that I'd love your reaction. If you have one, please feel free to share. If you've used a different way to explain listen fors, or if you've used it as something else that's adjacent to this, happy to learn more. Then you have your interviewees. So add your first interviewee. So let's just go ahead and add myself. Let's say I'm going to interview me. And then we have basically one interview that's planned, and when you're ready to begin this interview, you simply go find the name of the interviewee and click run. And the final one is the customization of the welcome screen. So basically this is where you start the interview, you click run, and then the first thing you will see will be this screen that welcomes participants. And in that screen, you might have certain language that relates to their particular segment, but you will also probably have some recurring context around what is a job, a pain, and a gain. How does this interview run? What are we going to do in this interview? So we'll have a little bit of a visual script for people to share on their screen and say, as we get ready for this interview, let's spend a couple of minutes to tell you how this will go. So we're planning on having a pre-made template of a welcome screen with the ability for you to edit that welcome screen. What would you like to see on the welcome screen? What would we be missing? What are the types of things you want beyond functionality of making it a full-on landing page? We want to keep it as lean and simple as possible, but what are some of the things that you think would be exciting for us to build in to the welcome screen? And once you're set up with all this, you're ready to begin your interviews. There's a lot more exciting developments coming up in Rapid Visual. Thank you very much for listening. Talk to you soon.